So I'm very excited to introduce our speaker, Sandra Clark, for today's presentation. She is a LinkedIn specialist who works with individual teams and companies to create and manage their LinkedIn presence for dynamic results. And she helps people to get excited about LinkedIn and confident about their profiles to basically present themselves authentically and powerfully in the online marketing world. So Sandra, over to you. You're on mute, Sandra.
Oh.
It works better if I unmute myself. How many times have we heard that? Unmute yourself. So I'm excited to be here. I've been up since 4:30 this morning. So I have to be excited in order to stay awake, and sounds like a lively, good crowd with some great questions. And I'm excited to share some of my knowledge with you. I'm going to be sharing a lot of information. Some of it will be maybe fairly basic for some of you. Some of it will be too advanced for you. I specialize in what I call social media for the socially reluctant. So if any of you feel you identify with that, a little uncomfortable about putting yourself out there online, you're my kind of people. So I wanted to start, even before I get started here, with having you do one thing and learn one thing. The thing I want you to do is, if you're on your computer and you've got LinkedIn open thinking you're going to work on it while I'm talking, great. Go ahead to on your profile where there's a More tab and click on Download PDF. If you do that, it's a great way to kind of see the way you're presenting yourself to the world. Now, anybody can go and do that. A recruiter can also do that without even asking you for a resume. I don't recommend that your profile be exactly the same as your resume, but be aware they can do that. So save a copy of that and just see how you look to the outside world. So that's number one to do. The tip I want you to know before I even get started is, have you ever noticed you go to someone's profile and you can't see a connect button? It just says follow. Or maybe, so that's one problem. You just see follow. But if you click under the More tab, that magic More tab, under that is the option to connect. So you can still connect if that's what you want to do. Following and connecting is different. But if you want to connect, you have that option. And on your phone, I'm going to encourage you to connect with me. I love to connect with people in my presentations. And you are probably going to use your phone. So go to my profile, you hit that darn connect button, sends off the message without any opportunity to personalize it. And don't do that. Instead of connect, click on the three dots. That will give you the option to personalize your message. And if you tell me that you're from this group, I tend to treat you a little more specially than just any ordinary person from out there. So that's, even before I get started, I wanted to give you a little value for people who came early. They come late, they're going to miss it. I guess they get it in the recording. So let me share my screen here. See if this works here. There we go. So, I don't know. I wonder in the future if business cards are even going to be relevant. When you've got the QR code, all of you have it on your LinkedIn profile. I've got mine. You can just scan it, go directly to my profile, and send a message to connect if you want. So you can do that too. I bought some new business cards not too long ago. I think it will be the last ones I ever buy, not just because I'm old. So I used to have on my first slide here pictures of Wonder Woman and Superman with the LinkedIn icon. But I'm going to go see the new Ant-Man and Wasp movie this weekend with my son. So I got new pictures. They're not great pictures, but I'm excited about the movie. So I'm going to talk about unleashing the power of LinkedIn for your career. And your career is throughout your life, whether you're employed, unemployed, happily employed, think you're never going to look for another job again, or like so many of my clients lately, they've unexpectedly been laid off after many years. So here we go. So who uses LinkedIn? I would say the typical user, my clients, are busy working professionals who know they need to have a presence on LinkedIn. They might not want to be on social media. They may hate it, but they know they need to be there. So they need, at the very least, to have a presentable profile that represents them appropriately. Many of you, and I'm going to reference this probably a number of times tonight, when you have job opportunities, you get them often through the people you know. Now, those people are not going to ask for your resume. They're not even going to look at your LinkedIn profile. But when they refer you, those people they've referred you to, they're going to look and see, does this person match up to what I've heard? So that's that secondary third is where you want to be aware that people are looking and how you present yourself to them. So I've got a poll here, if you want to pull that up. And this is thinking of your own profile. I've looked at a couple, but thinking of your own profile, how do you think it rates? With 1 being, I think I remember my password, I'm not sure. It's not very good. Through to 5, which is, dang, I think I'm pretty good. I just came tonight to see if I could pick up a new tip or so. So if you want to, can you pull up that poll, Neela? So
Yes.
go ahead. With 1 being basic, 5 being, dang, it's pretty good. 3 in the middle somewhere. And, you know, some of you, I've captured your names and I will be looking after and see if I think that it's the same as what you've evaluated yourself as. Anybody filling things in?
So I have 13 people responding, 14, 16. I'm just, okay, I think it stopped. So I'm going
And if you
yeah.
have to think about what it is, it's probably a 1, 2.
You have 65%.
So you're going to share the results?
Yes, let me show.
Great. Okay, so most of you, majority of you are kind of think you're in the middle there, which is probably fairly accurate. And for those of you feel that it's not that good, and for those of you who feel it's pretty good, there should be something for you tonight, something for everybody to improve their profile a little bit and or think of LinkedIn a little differently than you might have thought of it before. A necessary evil for some people, but it's so much more. Even the person who was talking about their newsfeed, I'm not going to particularly talk about that. If we get to it in the questions, I'll tell you ways to get newsfeeds without ads in them. So I'm going to talk about creating a great LinkedIn profile, attracting attention, because that's the purpose of having a great one. You want to attract attention, the power of connecting, basically look good, show up, build relationships, if we want to talk really basic language. Now, LinkedIn keeps growing and growing. You know, how many of these users are fake accounts is a whole different story. We won't go there. I used to change the, could somebody mute themselves? I'm getting a lot of background noise there.
Let me mute them.
Oh, no, I was just talking about my own here.
Thank you. So there, I used to change the slide all the time as the numbers grew and grew. And now I just have over 750 million users, a lot of opportunities for you to find prospects if you have your own business, to find employment opportunities. Why should you care? Is it just about getting a job? I think it's a lot more than that. Professional associates will check you out. If you go to work at a company or you're working there, other people are going to check you out. You know, what's your career history being? Are you going to be competition for them? They're going to be looking at you. Potential employees will check you out. I work with a lot of people who are managers, and they're interested in how people see them, because just as those managers are looking at your profile to see if they might hire you, you know, they know that those people are looking at them and saying, hey, do I want to work with this idiot? Am I going to have cool opportunities, learn good things? What kind of boss is he or her? It's great for career development, a lot of opportunities on LinkedIn to grow your career with everything from the news to groups to the connections and relationships you can and should be building there. Building relationships, that's my favorite part of LinkedIn. Usually, you know, the little black book we had of our contacts, people moved. If you didn't keep it updated, forget about it. But LinkedIn, people keep it updated for you. So if you are looking for a new opportunity, you can look up, oh, where did Susie end up? Oh my, she's working for this company now. I should reconnect and have a chat with her. So if you take care of those relationships, and that doesn't mean just asking somebody for something when you want it, it means nurturing and staying in touch over time. And it's a great place to do that, especially now that so much is virtual. We really have to pay attention to how can we build relationships virtually. So all of you should be staying in touch with all of each other. So, put your URL for your profile if you've got it right into the chat, save the chat, and connect with each other, if not right now, after the meeting. At the very least, each other in this group is a huge opportunity for you to network with like-minded people. That's mine. I've got my QR code and I've got the link as well. So mistake number one. I used to have mistake number one is no profile at all, but now I think I can count on the fact you've at least got a profile. So the mistake I see now is, do you remember the old Kevin Costner movie, Field of Dreams? Build it, they will come. Well, a lot of people think, okay, I'm going to build my profile. I'm going to pay somebody maybe to do it for me, shiny and new, and then it'll be fine. That's all I ever need to do. No. If you just build a great profile and you don't use it, it's like you've got a beautiful new car that LinkedIn puts in the long-term car part where it's just going to stay there and won't get any dings on it. And it's also not going to get seen. The magic of LinkedIn is in being engaged and active. The algorithm sees that and they make you show up more. People see you're being active and they pay attention. So you can't just ignore it. Now, I'll talk a little bit more later on about activity, but activity in this way is really anything you do on LinkedIn. Opening up your account, logging on is a good start. Sending private messages, saying congratulations, happy birthday, all those things all count as activity even before you, if you don't want to put yourself out there with doing a like or a comment, let alone a post, all those back end activities are just fine. So this is my magical mystery formula for LinkedIn success. Really hard. Needs to be complete. Now, complete doesn't mean every darn possible field filled in that there is on LinkedIn, and there are a lot. It means all the basics, and I'll talk about them in a minute. But it needs to be complete. You need your keywords, and I'll talk later about where and how you can use keywords. And at the end, if we have time, I've got a little tip on ways to use it to find the keywords you should be using. It's a new thing on LinkedIn. It's kind of cool. You need a certain number of connections, and I will frighten some of you by telling you how many I think you should have. You need activity, that magic lightning bolts activity. You need to be active on LinkedIn. And all of that together gives you maximum visibility, high search engine optimization, SEO ranking. We think of SEO for Google. This is within LinkedIn, but it actually has implications to Google as well. So that's your magic. Really difficult, right? So these are what I call the basic components of a profile that I always want to see. You need a photo. I'll talk more about that. You can't get away from it. You need your professional headline, and you need your about section. It used to be called just summary. LinkedIn like to change their names of things all the time. Now it's called about. You need your job history, not necessarily going back to the beginning of times. For me, that would be the dinosaur age, but you need your job history, your education as appropriate, your skills. And I don't know if any of you did that download of your profile at the beginning. Like I told you, if you notice, there are 3 skills listed on the left, and maybe they're not the skills you want to show up. So there's a way to make them show up the ones that you want. And connections. Oh, and I put contact information, although it's not strictly speaking a field in the way that the others are. At the top of your profile is a little box that says contact info. And in that box, I cannot tell you how often I find that people have incorrect information in there. Your email in there only shows to your connections. Your website, if you have it listed there, will show to everyone. I often see like a website of 2 companies ago. So just do take a look at it and make sure that it's not out of date. And please, I don't want to see in any AOL or, those Earthlink or the older kinds of emails on LinkedIn. You can have it. I'm not going to take it away from you, but the one that you're showing on LinkedIn needs to be a little updated. It does not have to be Google. If you hate Google, it needs to be more updated though. So mistake number 2, no profile picture, or an old one or a bad one. If you don't have a picture on LinkedIn, you show that gray kind of box, or really it kind of looks like you got a bag over your head. It's like, don't look at me, I'm old, fat, and ugly, and I don't want anyone to know. I'm sorry, you have to get over yourself. It's not about you, it's about other people. There are over 1,000 Sandra Clarks on LinkedIn, And so it makes it easier to find me. I tend to show up fairly high in the searches because I'm active, but it's easier if you see it and you see my picture and you see me here tonight. So you want to look like you. You want to look like you on a good day, not your best day, not your wedding day, not your kid's wedding day. I'm sorry, you are never going to look like that again. So just let it go. It should be no more than 2 to 3 years old. You want just your head and neck. We don't want the whole body. For men in general, just a collared shirt, maybe a sport coat if you're a manager, suit and tie. I don't know anybody who wears that. Actually, I had a client the other day who does. But in general, just look like you would look if you were going into a professional business meeting. So think about that. Many people are a little concerned with ageism. It is a real problem. I like to see a picture that looks a warm smile. I like a kind of brightness, engaged look, because I think it's the kind of droopy down, nobody's ever going to hire me pictures I sometimes see that will age you more than the wrinkles, a few of those. So definitely need that photo. So your headline on LinkedIn is your personal brand. It is not your job title. You are so much more than your job title. So I've called it here your tagline. It's really your headline. It's right under your name. It used to be 120 characters maximum. Now it's 220. There's lots of room. There's reasons why you want to front load it with the most important things, but you can have your keywords in there. They're very searchable. You also can communicate a little bit about yourself. So I've done mine a little differently than I'm going to recommend you because of the nature of my business. I'm leading with my tagline, social media for the socially reluctant. For you, I'm going to have you do it a little bit differently. And let's look at some examples. This is what I most often see, using the default headline. Oh, account manager, director of client support services, associate director of IT strategic initiatives, senior executives. That's the effect it has on me. Yeah, I just saw you, Roger. You yawned. I did too. So you are so much more than a title. So in general, I recommend your job title, especially if you're a job seeker, you want that job title in there because even if you are not currently employed, you want the job title that you want to have because it's searchable, followed by some keywords, and then perhaps something that differentiates you. So job title, keyword, desired, keyword plus keyword plus keyword plus something special. So the last one here, business development, he doesn't have a title. He didn't feel the need, but he could have at the beginning a title, helping companies create more perfect software, inspired by business, empowered by technology. So it's a little bit of fun. So I'm hoping that most all of you will come up with a better headline over the next week as you start to think of this. And as I say, if you get stuck, don't worry about that, something unique about you, but at least have job title plus keyword and keyword and keyword. And that's not everything. That's just a few major ones. Now your banner, it's free. It's easy. Why would you not do that? Now, some of you submitted questions in advance and wanted to know about banners. So I'm giving you some resources of where to get banners. It's on the bottom of this slide. Unsplash.com, pixabay.com, and nappy.co, that's not .com, .co, has more diverse images. The others are a little Caucasian centric. Now there are specific dimensions for that top banner picture, and I could tell you the exact dimensions, except I don't remember them. So what I will tell you is a narrow strip. So if you put a picture of the Golden Gate Bridge in, you're going to lose the top of the bridge. So sometimes you just play with it, add in some different pictures, maybe geographic specific, maybe if you're an IT person, something geeky engineering, something that represents you, your brand, your personality, perhaps geographically. If it's your own business, you can have a branded one like I do. But it's, why not do it? It makes you look a little special when we go to your profile, makes you stand out a little. So many people on LinkedIn, you definitely want to stand out a little. So this is, again, just, I put this on a separate page, a list of some of the places where you could go for images, and they're free. It's very important to make sure you have the rights to use something copyright free, because I got fined $500 by Getty Images one time because I used a picture of theirs in a blog post. And that $500 fine was not allowing me to continue using it. That was if I took it down right away. That was my slap on the wrist, and they told me I got off cheaply. So make sure, just because it's on Google, your IT people, you know this, just because it's on Google does not mean it's free to use. So your about section, this is where I find so many people cop out. I want to talk about myself. I'm just going to put the top executive summary for my resume on there. Don't do that. It looks dated because it hasn't actually been the fashion on LinkedIn for the 13 years I've been doing this. You write it in first person. I mean, wouldn't it be weird if you went to a networking event and said, Sandra Clark is an experienced LinkedIn trainer and coach, and she works with people? No, talk to people. I'm an experienced coach and trainer. I work with people to help them transform their profiles for results. You know, maybe you're not going to use kind of real strong marketing language, but communicate who you are and what you do. Now, the rest of this, introduction, elevator pitch, results you deliver, your call to action, contact information. If you are looking for a job or you have your own business, you want to have your contact information right in there. Remember earlier I said at the top that contact information, the email, is only visible to your connections. I want all the people I'm not connected to be able to reach me easily. And I've heard that recruiters love it when you've got your contact information there, because they don't have to then pay for an in-mail. So you've already got brownie points with recruiters if you make it easy for them to see. You can have a special email that you just use for job search if you're afraid of getting spammed, but have your information in there. It used to be on LinkedIn, you would go to a profile and you would see the whole about section. So it was easy to sort of scan it. Now you go and we only see 4 lines. So you really need to make sure those first 4 lines pack a punch. I say to have something intriguing that makes people want to open it and read the rest of it. What it is you were going to do for them. What do you deliver as an IT professional or whatever, a project manager? And what it is you want them to do for you. You want them to contact you, connect with you on LinkedIn. So there's a lot to put in there, but don't avoid it. You can't do a lot of fancy formatting. You can't bold, italicize, underline. You can use all caps and you can use white space. Make it easy to read. If it's all dense text, I'm not going to read it. It's too hard. So now you want your job history and experience. Now, every LinkedIn trainer is going to have a slightly different opinion about some of the things I'm telling you. So I do put the proviso, this is my opinion. A lot of people do agree with me, not everyone. So in general, I recommend that you have some keywords where possible. I think one of the people earlier was talking about what I call keyword stuffing. You don't want to use keyword stuffing where you just put the word again and again and again for no good reason. You want to have it there as appropriate and relevant. You want a sentence or 2 and several bullets. There's actually quite a bit of space, 1,000 or so characters. I don't necessarily recommend filling it in. Again, to use my reference from earlier, you want it to be like Tinder, where you want enough information to get people to swipe right, to ask you for more, to ask for your resume, to ask for an interview. Because if it's all there, they just scrape the data and they go, nah, not right, and they don't give you the chance. Now, there are those that feel there should be a lot of information there, that will help you. So it's worth talking with recruiters about that. I don't know whether Abby said anything about it at your meeting last month for a job search, but in general, I think enough to get them to want to learn more, and include some specific accomplishments. Not everything, always leave them wanting more, but accomplishments include 2 or 3. It's like, oh, that's great. And you mean there's more? Skills and endorsements, do they matter? Yes and no. They do matter in terms of having them on your profile. You can have up to 50 and use them all. They're great for keyword search. So definitely have them. Endorsements were developed for recruiters, but then it kind of got silly. People were endorsing you for skills you didn't have, that they didn't know you have, and it kind of got a little crazy. So I don't worry too much about endorsements. You certainly can ask people for them. Recommendations, much more important. You definitely need those. There's a new thing that they've added for skills. I'll show you that in a moment. Okay, so skills, the section it goes, industry knowledge, tools and technology, interpersonal skills, you can't choose what category it goes under. LinkedIn decides that. But you want to have them there. And you can see this person's example is the number of endorsements. So endorsements, nice to have. This is the new thing on LinkedIn. When you open up a skill, you can add it to a specific job. And recruiters love this, I'm told. The trick is you don't want to add every skill to every job. That just looks like keyword stuffing. It doesn't help you. But to add, LinkedIn recommends about 5. I think that's a good number. If you pick 5 of your top skills and add it to the jobs that you've used it at, maybe there are some skills you used to use in the past you're not using now, but you want to showcase that you did. Maybe there are some new ones that you've acquired more recently, especially in technology, and you want to have it there. So new thing, it's confusing, especially with the skills. They're usually in the order in which you've added them. And for those of you who have endorsements, it then resorted them into the order where you had the most endorsements. You can go in and change the order. I don't recommend you change the order for all 50, waste of your time, but make sure the first 3, the most important 3 that you want to be known for, are showing at the top, and you can change the order. You can reorder them. And that will also change. Remember doing that PDF at the very beginning, I told you at my presentation, and you've got 3 skills that show on the side. You're now going to have the 3 most important skills showing on the side of that PDF. So it's a new thing, and it's nice, but LinkedIn keep adding and adding and adding stuff. I'm sorry, nothing against software engineers, but you can't leave well enough alone. You know, if something's good, you got to add more, and you got to add more. And LinkedIn keeps adding more. Over 300 changes last year, and this year over 100 to date, and nobody can keep up with it. So even if it's good, theoretically this is good, it's really hard to teach people because I can barely describe to people how to do this unless I'm screen sharing with them. So recommendations, do they matter? Yes. You want to have recruiters, I'm told, they get a similar kind of printout like the PDF, but with some additional things, including it tells them how many recommendations you have. I'm told they like to see at least 5. Doesn't show the recommendations, but it does show the number. So, recommendations, when you start doing something, I've been doing this 13 years. Before that, I had a long career at the University of California. I used to be a teacher. I was a theater director, all kinds of things from my past. Recommendations relevant to that may not be relevant to what I'm doing now. So you want to make sure that you pick up recommendations that are relevant to what you're doing now. And there is a logic to my career path. I used to make people look good on the stage. I was a director. Now I make them look good on the stage of LinkedIn. I used to be a teacher, once a teacher, always a teacher. So now I help teach LinkedIn and teach people how to use it. So you never know what skill from your past might be relevant in your future. Sometimes the path is a little indirect. So there are many sections on LinkedIn. LinkedIn used to show all the main areas. And if it was blank, it would just be blank. On your, people looking at it wouldn't see, but you would be able to see, oh, it's blank, I could fill something in. And they like to streamline it and make it cleaner. And that means it doesn't show unless you add it. So you don't even know. I see people with things in the wrong places because they didn't know there was a section specially for it. So if you add, there's a little kind of oval thing at the top of your profile. It says add to profile. And there's 3 areas: core, recommended, and additional. And under each of those are different areas. So you can add your certifications, your publications, your projects. Education is probably already on there, your volunteer work, and many other things. even your languages. If you only speak English, I don't particularly recommend you put it on your profile. But if you speak other languages, I recommend you also put English, because we want to know that that's your basic language and that you have the others. The order of languages is alphabetical. So if you have another language that starts with a letter before E, it's going to be in a different order. You can't control that. But if you speak more than one, I used to, I don't anymore, go ahead and add it. All of those things could help you. There's a wonderful section, I call it new. It's really not new. It's been around for well over 2 years now. It's called Featured. And that's one of those things where you need to click on the more to find the place to add that section. This is a great place to showcase if you've got a portfolio of some kind, or to advertise AITP. For example, to show you're active and involved in organizations, associations related to your industry. Great place to promote it. You can put a link in here. If you're someone who is posting content on LinkedIn, you can put that here. Articles, documents, videos. I usually have a selection of things. So like it's an example for my clients. So I might have a video, an article, a link to like a podcast or something that I've done. So do use it. It's very visual, right in the middle of your profile with a nice colorful picture from the website or from your post. If it doesn't show a pretty link, I call it pretty. I'm sure there's a technical term. If it looks ugly, kind of a gray box or something, it's probably, if it's a link, it's because where it's pulled from the website, it's the way the website's built. There's a way to fix that, but just be aware that if it doesn't look pretty, you may want to do something else instead, rather than look like you were technically not savvy enough to make it look good. So LinkedIn connections, the size of your network matters. So if you have under 100, you're only visible to 5% of the LinkedIn population. Now, 5% of over 750 million, still a lot of people, right? But the magic starts to happen when you have over 500 connections. Now you start to be visible to over 95% of the LinkedIn population. Do you remember the days where it used to just say over 500? And when you got to that number, you could just sit back and relax because nobody was going to know how many more you had. Now we can see how many you have. So don't stop. And the number of connections I recommend that you have is at least 30 connections for every year of your age. I will let you do your own math and see the look of panic in some people's eyes. Okay, and by the way, that does not mean I'm over 200 years old, because if I'm in business development, I have more than my allotted 30. Now, the reason I say 30 is because you meet at least 30 people professionally a year. Tonight, you're meeting more than 30. You've got your year's allotment just by connecting to the people here. So that's my baseline, people you're meeting throughout your professional career. I sometimes had somebody say, well, can I get a waiver for the first 20 years of my life before I went to college? And I go, no, because after that, you should be doing double time to make up for that. So if you're in recruiting, obviously you're going to have a larger network. If you have your own business development, you're going to have more than that. If you are a thought leader or want to be seen as a thought leader and put content out there, you also probably want more followers. Followers are different than connections. It's very confusing. LinkedIn even accidentally mix up the wording too. Connections are the people you are directly connected to, one-to-one. You can send them messages. It shows up on the profile as a first-degree connection. Followers are people who've chosen to follow you because they want to see your content because you're writing great stuff. Otherwise, there's no real purpose to following you. So roughly, that's the difference between connections and followers. Who to connect to? Any random person? Somebody's going to just be constantly trying to sell you? Nah. I recommend you connect to people you know, people you'd like to know, and people who know people you'd like to know. Now, what do I mean by that? Well, people you know, that's obvious. People you'd like to know, those are people at companies, potential people who might hire you. But people who know people you'd like to know, maybe that feels a little more obscure. I'm connected to a lot of administrative assistants. They are not my target clients, but I've spoken to their associations. I have friends who are admins, love them dearly. And because I'm connected to them, I'm only 2 degrees away now from half the CEOs and executives in Silicon Valley. And who do you think those CEOs are going to ask for help or recommendations for someone to help them with LinkedIn? So they are a powerhouse of opportunity for me. So think about things more widely. If people are just trying to connect with you to sell you something, and you can tell pretty easily, just delete them. Don't accept the connection request. Sometimes I'll give them a chance. And if the first thing they do is try and pitch me, I just remove them as a connection right away. I used to try and train them that that's not the thing to do. I don't even waste my time anymore because I usually got something rude back. So think about it more widely. So I'm going to talk a little bit more about follow. Remember, I talked about the difference between follow and connections. So follow, by default, you follow all your universities that you've gone to, all the schools you've gone to, and the places you work. LinkedIn just automatically does that. You can unfollow it if you've got like a real negative juju about a company you used to work in. You don't even want to follow it. You can do that, but otherwise that's the default. And then you can choose to follow exciting companies that you love to get their news in your news feed, or that you're interested in to work. You are more likely to see their posts in your news feed if you do that. So, okay, I'm going to ask a poll, and then I'm going to go into a couple of about some visibility things, but let's just talk about how you are going to use LinkedIn. So Neela, can you bring up that poll? So, and this is a multiple choice, so you can use, you can have more than one answer here. I think this was the poll, wasn't it, Neela?
I don't think we have this one,
no,
but maybe we can ask.
It wasn't this one. It's probably how are you going to use it next?
Yes.
Sorry, sometimes I forgot to remove this as a poll. Okay. Senior moment. So I told you this at the very beginning. I put it in the slides here at the end because so often people think, well, I can't connect with them. It doesn't say connect, it only says follow. Nah, look under that magic more, the the magic more button, and you will see the opportunity to connect. Do take advantage of that. Once you click this, it will ask you want to add a note. I recommend adding notes because it starts a conversation. My goal on LinkedIn is always to make a connection, to start a conversation, to build a relationship. And for a relationship, I might earn the privilege of doing business with them. So it's always step by step. So I like to include a note, great meeting you at AITP tonight. I hope that you learned something of value. Look forward to staying in touch. Let me know if you've got anything I can help you with. And by the way, I hope you are putting your questions in the chat as you think of them, because otherwise I'll get to the end and ask for questions and you go, I know I had one, I forgot it. And I may have answered the question already, but maybe I haven't. So don't be afraid to put it in the chat as we go. But you, the kind of writing messages and things is so valuable. I will, if I don't get to all your questions tonight, or you have something that's very specific and unique to you, if you connect with me, I will, I'm not going to do a profile review, but if you've got a particular question, I will try and help you if I can, if I don't get to it tonight, because some of you definitely had very specific questions that seemed more unique to your situation. So my top tip, remember I said at the beginning, you can't just let it sit there and do nothing. You've got to get visible. That's the magic on LinkedIn. And I mentioned earlier the things that activity can do. Even sending private messages, you're only visible to the person you send it to, but all of that helps. Beyond that, if you want to notch it up a bit, you want to engage on LinkedIn. Like, comment, share. Now, all of these things have different value in terms of the algorithm. Like if people are really into, well, what's my measurement and what does more? That's a whole other thing. But for most of you, just doing anything at all is going to be an improvement. Congratulate people when they've got a new job. Nobody minds being congratulated. Maybe they'll think of you too. Oh, thank you. Oh, we're hiring like crazy here. Maybe you should take a look. It's all opportunities for conversations to begin that might lead to opportunities. Comment on people's posts, and ideally comment more than 5 words. that sort of kind of, but not necessarily nowadays, shows that you're not a bot, because the automated responses that people have set up, illegal against the rules of LinkedIn, but people still do it, can do, usually 3 or 4 words. 5 usually means it's a real person. Say something a little more significant than good job, well done, or that's interesting. A bot can do that for you. And the whole thing with ChatGPT now is, how can you differentiate yourself from AI? I hope we still can. I'm beginning to wonder, I confess. Make an offer to help someone. It doesn't have to all be giving something. Offer to introduce someone to someone who might be hiring, or they might have some common interests. You can do that publicly on the post, or you can do a private message to someone. Sometimes people these days, not something I recommend, but are doing, as they're laid off, this great outpouring of emotion about how they feel about that as they say goodbye. It's like their kind of Oscar speech. Not a fan of that, but if you do that, if you see someone's in pain, reach out to them privately, help each other. It's about relationships. Ultimately, I hope it's about people. And if you really want to up your game, post content. There's a whole realm of things that you can post, pros and cons to each. So I will give you some examples of those in a minute. When you post on LinkedIn, who sees it? All your connections, right? Wrong. When you post something on LinkedIn, it only goes into the newsfeed of about 10% of all of your connections. One reason to have a larger network. Now, you could increase that number from 10% to more like 25%. And that's essentially by engagement. The more you engage with people, the more LinkedIn rewards you by making it seen. Now, number of views does not mean somebody saw it. Sorry. It just means the news feeds it went into, the number of people who might have seen it if they happen to be looking at that time. Likes and comments are a more real indicator of people who actually have looked at it and read it. So just be aware, posting things does not mean everybody is going to see it. All kinds of different things you can post. I used to train people on using all these different kinds of posts. And what I found is it was too overwhelming for most people. So what I mostly do now is find 2 or 3 things that they are willing to do and willing to do consistently. I say, just do it. Better that you do something that you're willing to consistently than try to teach you how to do something that's more effective. A text post with an image, or a text post more effective than a link. But sometimes people, that feels too exposed to actually share their own thoughts, but they'll do a link to an article that does not get a lot of visibility because people don't like clicking on links to take them somewhere else. LinkedIn knows that, so they don't spread it very far. But I have one client who did it consistently, and she wrote very thoughtful introductions at the beginning, why she was sharing it. And she actually ended up getting quite a bit of traction from that because people knew that she was a thought leader, that she was going to share valuable content. Videos do great in terms of engagement. A number of views on videos different than other things. If people stop and pause for 3 seconds looking at the video, ideally with captions, you always want captions because that will make them pause the scroll. That counts as a view. So it's a little more real than just appearing in a newsfeed. Document posts, so many different kinds. According to what you like to post, there's something that will work for you. And there's a better way to do each kind. Once you decide this is what I'm willing to do, there's a better way to do each kind of thing. Now, I don't know if any of you have noticed this, or maybe you've turned it on because LinkedIn said you should. And you go, well, sure, why not? It's called creator mode. And it shows up on your profile under resources. And if you turn it on, it tells you what will happen if you do it. One of the things it does is it will make the default to follow you, not to connect. Now, they still can connect if they know to click on more, but the default will be to follow you. And you're basically saying, hey, I'm a thought leader and I talk about these topics. Now, if you turn it on and then you don't ever post anything, that's a bit, doesn't really speak very well for you, does it? So in general, if you're not going to post content, for most people, I would say keep it turned off. If you have a particular situation where you think it would be good for you to turn on, even though you're not posting content, you're welcome to send me a message and say, this is my situation. I've got it turned on. Do you think I should? But in general, if you're posting content, it's great. There are a number of great things you can do with it, including sending a newsletter to all of your connections the first time only. First time it goes to all your connections. After that, they have to subscribe. So if you've got a decent sized network, I've got 7,000 or so, the first time it will go to all of them and then only to those that subscribe. So it's a great way to get visibility if you have your own business, maybe if you're a recruiter or somebody who wants to get the word out about something. But for most of you, I would say probably if you turned it on, you may want to consider turning it off. I deliberately don't have mine on because I talk about social media for the socially reluctant. Most of my clients are not terribly comfortable with all the ins and outs of LinkedIn. I want to be seen as accessible. So if they go to my profile and they see follow, okay, they'll follow, but I don't want them to just follow to read my content. I want them to connect and I want to make it easy. So I want them to know they can do that. So that's a reason I haven't turned it on. So there are some great things that it does. I may change my mind this year, but something to think about. Now, many of you probably have the question, do I need to pay for premium? You'll be happy to hear that in general, the answer is no. Now, those of you who are paying for it might not be happy with my answer. Now, there certainly are situations where it would be worth it. If you have your own business, you're doing a lot of prospecting, a lot of business development, then yes, you want to pay. For business premium, it's about $50 a month. For job seeker premium, it's about $30 a month. For job seekers, I would say it's certainly worth doing it for the first free month, just to check it out. But then mark on your calendar when that month is up, because LinkedIn's supposed to let you know. They often don't. And it keeps charging to your credit card, and they never give refunds, never, ever. Death, destruction, floods, and famine, never. So do mark it. But do you need it? Mostly no, unless you're in the situations where you want to do a lot of searches, a lot of prospecting, and maybe for a while as a job seeker. But if, they'll say, LinkedIn will say, not they, LinkedIn will say, oh, pay for premium and you will show up more in searches. Not so much. So now I've got, this is the poll that you have, right? I got it right this time. Is this the one I have?
Yes, let me pull up the poll.
And so this is, you're committing to me. You're making a promise to the virtual room here that you are going to do these things. And don't, you can choose more than one thing, but don't say everything, because if you say everything, you will do nothing. Pick a couple, 2 or 3 things at most of things you are committing that you are going to fix, add, improve this week. And if you say other, go ahead and put in chat what the other is.
We have 32% participation. Okay, it's going fast. 49. Okay, just wait for 2 more seconds. Start. Okay, I'm going to launch it. All right.
Okay, I'm happy. You made my day. Especially with the updating things and adding connections and stuff. So good for you. And as I say, if you connect with the people here tonight, if you put your LinkedIn URL in the chat to make it easy, you'll grow your connections. You'll do all your homework just like that in one go. When you're sending out invitations in general, you want to have a rhythm, do, maybe 5 a day or something. If you send out a ton at a time, often LinkedIn might think you're spamming people. So you may want to be a little careful about that. So great, thank you. So I'm going to hold you to that. So I'm going to do questions, but before I do questions, because I have enough time, I'm going to show you a couple of advanced tips because I think I've got quite a few job seekers here. And this is a little bit difficult to explain. I'm going to show you a screenshot in a moment. You can find out, you upload your LinkedIn profile into Resume Builder. You can choose to use Resumes, Word, or wherever you want in general. But for LinkedIn's purposes, if you go into Career Resume Builder under Jobs and put in the title of a job you want, upload your LinkedIn resume, LinkedIn profile to that. It will, on the right-hand side, show you the keywords that you have that are in that particular kind of job and the ones that are missing. If you're premium, it will show you, I don't know, maybe 20 words that you're missing. If you're free, it might only show you 5, but it's still great. You can go back to your profile, add those words in, if appropriate, come back and try it again. These are some screenshots. You'll have the printout of this after, because it's very difficult to just describe. But you can, this is, I've got premium, so it's showing a whole bunch of suggested keywords. With the free, it's going to show you 5. It's still going to help you. Now, if you do the same trick by uploading your existing resume, it will also show you keywords you might be missing from that profile based on the job you're applying for. I don't know if I'm explaining that very well. I don't usually talk about this in presentations. I usually just talk about it when I work with people one-on-one. But I knew there were some job seekers, and it is new, and I think it is kind of a cool thing. There's a lot of stuff under the Jobs tab in LinkedIn. There are ways to practice interviewing. You can record yourself privately answering questions that you would get in interviews, and then maybe share that answer with somebody else to give you feedback. Or LinkedIn will tell you how fast you speak, how many uhs and ums. Sorry, a lot. So there are a lot of things they've added over the last couple of years, particularly during COVID times, to try and help people who couldn't go out and see people in person. Lots of cool stuff there. So if you look around for this, you might find some cool things to try. Now, somebody asked me in the pre-questions about how to get better search results if they're looking for, in that case, it was an executive position. There are lots of filters on LinkedIn when you search for jobs. I'm sure probably most of you have searched for jobs on LinkedIn and you think you know how to do that pretty well. I'm guessing there's a lot of stuff you don't take advantage of. There are filters. In this case, I just took a job title. I took a location, but I could add experience level. I could add job type. I could add filters. I could play filters. I could use industry. I could do all kinds of things, and I could get much better results. Those of you who are familiar with Boolean searches, you remember from college, maybe Boolean search strings or something? I could say the words. Do I really understand them? Heck no. I'm a theater major, remember? But what it is essentially, if you think about it, you've seen like a search string, and, not, or. So if I was to, in addition to LinkedIn's filters, use IT manager, not sales, and this, or not health, I would filter the results to get better results. So, you know, you have to take advantage of what's there. There are ways to do that that hopefully will help. In the slides, there will be one that has some resources, a newsletter I send out twice a month with LinkedIn tips, all topics on LinkedIn. If you are searchable by keywords, like you want to search for about or headline, I try to keep those updated. They're all searchable. And a lot of people want to be more than one thing on LinkedIn. I have a special thing there, the different kinds of posts, what they are. So that'll be in that, that printout. So now I'm going to go back to questions. I'm going to stop sharing so I can see you and take a look at the chat as well. Neil, are there some questions in there already that I haven't answered already that I should address first?
Yeah, there was a question from Marco. So Marco is asking, how much time should I invest on LinkedIn every day?
Okay, it depends on, don't you hate that? It depends on what you're trying to accomplish. So if you are a job seeker And LinkedIn is going to be one of your primary ways to do, how many hours a day are you going to devote to your job search? And by that, that means networking with people, phoning, filling in applications. So take all that time and say, okay, well, how much time am I going to do on LinkedIn? And so in that case, maybe you're spending an hour a day on LinkedIn. You're reaching out to connect with people. You're looking at the job opportunities. You're seeing if there are changes you can make to your profile. So you're spending a chunk of time. If you have your own business and you're doing business development, you're probably, again, if you spend 20 hours a week marketing and you say, okay, I'm going to spend a quarter of that time marketing on LinkedIn, you got 10 hours, 10, 20 hours, 5 hours. So you've got, 5 hours that you're going to spend doing marketing on LinkedIn. If you're just a busy professional and you think, I've got a full-time job, but I just want to keep things going just in case, make sure that I'm seen out there. Then 10 to 15 minutes a day is plenty. And that includes making new connection requests, responding to any messages, looking at who's asked to connect with you, commenting, liking on people's profile. Sometimes I'll have a busy executive and say, I just don't have time for that. So, well, how much time can you give me? I say, I can give you 15 minutes. They say, no, I don't have 15. So can you give me 5, 10? Yeah, I can do that. So, okay. And I tell them, set a timer for that amount of time, because what happens on LinkedIn, one of the questions before was also, what are some bad things that can happen on LinkedIn? And that is, you can go down this rabbit hole, spend a bunch of time, and then you say, you know what? I have time to waste on this. I'm not going to go back for a few days. I just can't waste my time. So I tell them, set the alarm. When the timer goes off, step away. Be excited to go back the next day and spend another 5 or 10 minutes. Don't get sucked in, because then you're going to feel it's a waste of your time. Spend a few minutes, leave it, feel you've made some connections, you've given yourself some visibility, and it will be much more interesting. So a roundabout way of saying is it depends what you want to get out of it, how much time you spend on it.
Mm-hmm.
What
So
else?
as I think there was another question from Jerry, and kind of continuation of this one. And as he says, like, I pay for LinkedIn. Is there a way to decrease paid content in the news feed?
I don't deal with people who pay for stuff on LinkedIn. I don't believe it is in general. I think you're going to be much better off with organic searches, with growing your network, with engaging in other people. You're going to get much better results from that. And I'll give one tip for my friend there who is so frustrated by all the ads in his newsfeed. There's a few ways to fix that. But one of the ways is, one, to become blind to them like I do. I don't actually see ads. My brain just doesn't register them. But a trick is to use hashtags. So if you're interested in ChatGPT or project management, put in hashtag project management, click on the word, and you will go to a newsfeed that is all stuff about artificial intelligence or all stuff about project management with no ads. Woohoo! Pretty cool, huh? Mm-hmm. And you can use that. So you can choose a number of different hashtags of content that you're interested in, and it saves it into your place where it's like saved hashtags. And you can just go there and have a nice, clean newsfeed with just stuff you're interested in. You can even set it up to only see posts from your connections. And that's going to have no ads in it too. So there's lots of things you can do. Some things you can't fight City Hall, you can't fight LinkedIn, but some things you can.
Okay, that's a good tip. Yeah, because whenever I open LinkedIn, there are so many feeds and you just get lost in like all the news feeds. We have another question from Larry Singer. So he's asking, is it possible to view someone's full profile without that person knowing that you have viewed their profile in the see who's viewed my profile?
Absolutely. It's under your settings and privacy. It's a good idea to take a poke around in there and see the different things. The defaults are not bad, but one of the defaults is to, one of the settings is to say, you can either show you viewed their profile, and it's good in general to show, because I call it peekaboo marketing, peekaboo job search. They see you look, they look back at you. That's good. But, and there's a middle one that just says like maybe your title or maybe your industry or where you went to school. It's irrelevant. The middle one is useless. But the bottom one is set it to anonymous. And if it's anonymous, it doesn't matter if they're paid. If you've set it to anonymous, when you look at someone's profile, they can't see who's looked. So I might do some research for a client sometime, like, and I want to see like who's ranking ahead of for credit risk analysis. And I don't want those people to see I've looked and think I'm interested in their services and reaching out to me. So I'll go to anonymous, do my research, come back and turn it to visible again. So yeah, absolutely, you can make that private.
Okay. Another question from Kari, is it better to follow or connect with recruiters?
With your tutors, instructors?
Maybe Kari, you want to expand if you're still there?
Well, I can answer it in
Sorry.
both.
Yeah. Because I was once told by a recruiter that it's a waste of time to try and connect with recruiters. You just want to follow them. And I'm just wondering if you believe that's true.
It depends. Sorry, I'm going to use that a lot. Some recruiters love it for you to connect with them. They like to build their database. A lot of recruiters connect with me because they want access to all of my connections. And, you know, are they going to be offended if you reach out to connect with them? No, they're just going to ignore you. If they don't want it, they don't like it. They actually can set one of the settings. You can put your settings so that people have to have your email to even ask to connect with you. So if you don't want anybody to reach out to you, you only want to reach out to them, you have that setting as a choice. So, you know, it's a bit like a hiring manager or somebody else. Are they going to be offended if you're looking at their profile or you ask to connect? They don't have to accept it, but isn't that showing that you're an eager person, that you're doing your research, that you're checking them out, starting to build that relationship from the beginning? So in general, I would say it's okay to try. I mean, if you're just randomly clicking, a lot of recruiters, to be honest, are just a waste of time. They just have a large database. They don't actually help you when they reach out to you. I would always ask, do you have a specific job that's open, or they're just adding you to their database? So I would say it's okay to reach out. Is it going to offend them? I don't know. If we've got a couple of recruiters here tonight. Larry, are you offended if somebody asked to connect with you when you were recruiting?
No, absolutely not. I have the choice to ignore or accept. So
exactly. So I think you're fine. Sometimes if there's somebody like an important person or a manager and you don't want to come on too strong and ask to connect with them, maybe you follow them and your name will pop up to them. They'll see you're a follower, maybe. And then sometime down the road, when you ask to connect, it will actually say, Kari has been following you and is inviting you to connect. So you can do it incrementally like that if you kind of want to take steps.
Okay. Another question is it possible to prevent hackers to send invitation to your LinkedIn? And this is from James, and I receive this kind of hacking invitation every week.
Well, you're receiving invitation. There are a lot of spam profiles on LinkedIn. So you always want, if somebody asks you to connect, if you don't want to connect with them, if you think they're a fake profile or something, you just, if you really think it's bad, you can decline and report them to LinkedIn. So you can certainly do that. You just have to be ruthless about not accepting them. Once you accept them, now the people that your connections, it gives that hacker added legitimacy because they're connected with Sandra, so they must be okay. So be very discriminating in who you accept. You may want to make more of the choice of you choose to reach out to connect with someone rather than just accepting people. You also probably want to have good, on your back end, you want to have a good password and ideally use two-factor authentication. Unfortunately, there is a lot of hacking going on. So, and that's the other way that's getting into your account and taking it over. So make sure you've got good security there, good password, and two-factor should help you do that. And just watch those hackers. They're in the world all around us. It's hard to really deal with them.
Mm-hmm. I think someone is trying to connect with you. Ivan is trying to connect with you on LinkedIn and getting a message, unable to connect. Try again later. I'm not sure, maybe something going on with LinkedIn.
Oh, LinkedIn, when they're doing things, adding something new, doing something, it will get buggy frequently. I can almost guarantee when I'm working with a client in a 2-hour session, that there will be something that doesn't work, that we've got to refresh the screen, that we've got to try it again, or come back another day to fix something because it just won't work. So it could just be, it's worth sometimes refreshing your screen or coming back another time. Sometimes things happen. I'm innocent. I'm very squeaky clean in what I do on LinkedIn because it's my business. And I got blocked from LinkedIn twice. First time for 6 hours, I think, and the second time for 2 days. And they thought I was looking at too many profiles, I think. And it maybe after an event like this where I was connecting with people and looking at a lot of profiles, and it was just too much. They basically were trying to blackmail me into paying for premium, which I did. But yeah, sometimes it's just buggy, but you should be able to connect.
This question from Catherine, what is LinkedIn Live?
LinkedIn Live is, if you're familiar with Facebook Live, it's basically just like doing video, but going live. Like just right now, you could actually be streaming this live, and you could stream it live onto LinkedIn and Facebook and somewhere else all at the same time. It involves the use of a third party. Is that what they called? But it's just live. It's different. The video I prepare in advance and I upload it. Live, I just go live and I'm talking to whoever wants to show up, or maybe I've advertised an event. So you can attend LinkedIn Lives. You can see them, notices about them. And if you ever wanted to do it, if you were in marketing or something and you wanted to do it to promote your business, I can't really tell you too much about that now. It's a whole, if you write a message to me, I can send you some resources. But if that's what you mean, basically it's just being live on LinkedIn for anybody to look at right now. It wouldn't just be this association if we went live there now.
Okay.
Hope that helps. If it doesn't, just ask me to clarify.
That helps. Thank you. I'll contact you.
Okay. Anybody else? Well, you got me.
Roger, I think you had a question. You want to ask a question?
Oh, just yes, thank you. Just to clarify what you already explained to us about customizing your newsfeed. So I'm deluged with those items as well. So once you customize it, how do you prevent the unwanted news from coming to you?
Okay, well, there's news and messages are different. So your news feed, your main news feed, you can customize it a little bit if you want to spend a little bit of time. I don't bother, to be honest, but in your news feed, if you click on the 3 dots, you can, now with ads, you can't do anything sponsored content, but anything else. If you are connected to somebody and you don't mind the person, but you just don't want to see their crap in your newsfeed, you can click on the 3 dots and you can unfollow them. That does not remove them as a connection. It just means you won't see their stuff anymore. I know about you, but I got a few people that post a lot of boring stuff. I love them dearly, but so you can do the 3 dots. You can unfollow them. You can block the person if they're sending a lot of stuff you really don't want to see. Again, the paid stuff, you just have to learn this technique I have it's invisible to me. Messaging is a different thing. Messaging, you can, there's a new inbox that some of us have, some don't. My inbox actually have 2, and one says focused and one says other. And all of my in-mails, which are usually the solicitations, are going into my other. I love it because it's basically all my spam. I can just ignore it. But I'm thinking that that will stop, because who wants to pay for an in-mail that's going to go into someone's junk folder? So I suspect that will change. And not everybody has this dual newsfeed yet. That's not newsfeed, the dual messaging box yet. So kind of messaging and newsfeed are different. So depending on which we're talking about, but you can control both of them a little bit.
Okay, thank you. So for the ads, there's nothing we can do. You mentioned that they're invisible to you.
Yeah, I just don't see them. I've become colorblind to them.
Ignore. Okay.
But as I say, if you use the hashtags, you go to a newsfeed where you don't have those ads. Oh, and there is another thing. If you're getting a lot of in-mails and things, if you don't want any of them, in your settings, there are some things you can say you don't want certain types of messages. Now that will block everything, but for some of you, maybe it's a consideration. You're going to block out opportunities too.
Thank you.
You're welcome. What else have we got there?
We have another question. It says from Ivan, if you have skills that are totally different, for example, real estate agent, cybersecurity engineer, do you recommend creating several LinkedIn profiles?
Great question. No, that was not even, it depends. It's a clear, definitive no, for a couple of reasons. It's against LinkedIn's terms of service to have more than one profile, but it may be that you have more than one profile by accident. And that's a different problem. But creating separate ones, it's just confusing. So if I look up your name and I see, well, it's two profiles, same picture, same name, same background, same education, but this one says real estate, this one says that. I do not recommend that. Ideally, you create both. People very commonly have more than one job or more than one area of expertise, and you set LinkedIn up to maybe where are you most going to use it for? So if you're going to use it to grow your real estate business, and the fact that you're also an IT professional, but that job is just there and people, you're not looking for jobs, you're not looking to grow your reputation there. That's on your profile, it's fundamentally there. You can put your real estate stuff as the primary thing you're pushing and saying, when I talk to realtor groups, I say, use your superpower. For a stay-at-home mom, her superpower is that she knows where all the best schools are, where to shop, what route their husband should drive to get to work. That's their superpower. For IT professionals who are realtors, your superpower is that you speak geek to all those other engineers who are looking for homes. So it's fine to have both. I think you can balance the two, but you don't want to have more than one profile. It's just very confusing. And if you have it by accident, you can merge them, and you can just do a Google search, how to merge a duplicate LinkedIn profile, and LinkedIn will give you step-by-step instructions how to do it. It can be easy if you know the other email, the other password. If you don't know the password, but you know the email, it can be easy. If you don't know either, it gets more complicated, but you can and should merge them. I've had clients with as many as 6 or more different accounts. And the primary reason is in the back end of LinkedIn where you add your email, you have the option to add multiple emails, and you're only going to show one, but you want to have the other ones in the back end of LinkedIn. You go to there is a capability for me to give LinkedIn access to my contacts and my address book online and say, okay, here's access, send out connection requests to all these people. Now, maybe in my connections, I have an email that I use for a college friend. That's an email that she only uses for her friends. But she sees my connection request and she goes, well, yeah, Sandra, of course I know I'm going to accept her, and doesn't think, oh, gee, I don't usually get LinkedIn requests through that email. Accepts it, that creates another LinkedIn account. So I've had clients with as many as 6 or more different accounts, because every time they went to a new company, not the first thing you think of, right, to add that email into the back end, and their new coworkers asked to connect, but using the email. They accept their wonderful new coworkers, new account. So you could find that out, do a search for yourself, hit enter and see how many people show up with your name. As I say, a lot of people show up with my name, but they're not me. Our name is a dime a dozen. So one account, please.
That's a very useful tip. Do we have any more questions before we wrap up for tonight?
I'm all yours for the next few minutes. Otherwise, I'm just going to go watch junky TV. Save me. And if you do reach out to connect or have questions, I will not be responding tonight, just to warn you.
Yeah, I have one more related question.
Yeah, Rob.
So LinkedIn kind of required me to put in multiple emails in my contact information, but I discovered a problem where it sends email requests to me that are from people in my contact list that I know didn't send them to me, and it's giving me the impression that the person wants to connect with me. Have you heard of that, or is it just my imagination?
I have to see it. It's not, you want those emails in the back end, and you only, the one that shows is the one, your primary one that you choose.
Right.
But if they're sending requests to your other emails, it's because they're doing it from their contact list, the way I described. And so long as it's in the back end, LinkedIn doesn't create a new account. It knows it's you, you accept them, and they just become part of your main account. I'm not seeing, like on Facebook, I see the problem all the time, people asking to connect, but I'm already connected with them. And they are just, you know, spoofed accounts. I don't generally see that on LinkedIn.
Okay, thank you.
You'd have to show me an example or something. I'll see if I can dig deeper, but I don't know that one.
There's one more question from Kari. How do you work with people individually?
The majority of my work is working with clients one-on-one, where we screen share for a couple of hours and we make up your profile from top to bottom to map to your current goals, whether it's to get a new job or just be seen as a thought leader. And then I record that session. And then I don't know about you, but the moment I walk out of training, I remember I forgot to ask that. So I stick around for a couple of weeks so you can keep asking questions, either by email or I'll do little videos. And then we come back together, half an hour, accountability, and okay, where do you go for here? And then I still stick around for a while if you have more questions. That teacher in me, it feeds my teacher's soul. So that's kind of the basic package that I offer. I've been doing for the last 13 years, and that's an investment currently of $750. And your time, which sometimes for busy professionals is the harder challenge. That's the most of what I do. I do group classes sometimes, group training, but mostly it's the one-on-one. It's what I love to do. I get a chance to know you and pull out of you how you want to be seen on LinkedIn. That's my fun. And Catherine has her hand up. Are you waiting patiently there, Catherine?
Yes, I thought of this question, sorry, but one issue I have is you mentioned emails and people putting in their emails. When I message people, I often put in an email address that I want them to contact me at. It's not always the same email address, depending on what I have them emailing me for. If it's tech, I have an email for that. If it's entrepreneurship, it's an email for that. It depends. So the problem.
You can do that, but it does get confusing.
Well, no, it's not to the same person.
No.
Not to the same person. My point is that people seldom seem to respond to emails. They do not email you. Is there some sort of unwritten rule about emailing people outside of LinkedIn that I missed here?
I like to get a conversation off of LinkedIn and into email as soon as possible, because it's better. So you can see if you're connected to them, you can see their email in the contact list, and you can send that message to them in email to start. We tend to respond back to the way we hear. So I get a message on LinkedIn, people tend to respond back to me that way. That's the only thing I can assess. But I think email's fine, but you maybe need to initiate it. So I need to shut up here so you can talk about what's happening next. Can I get invited to next month's? Looks good.
Of course, yeah. So it's close to 7:30, and if I know like there are more questions, but I guess Sandra will let them connect with you on LinkedIn, and they can ask you further questions. But thank you so much for like all the information that you provided today and like little tips and tricks. And I have been writing it down, even though I know you are going to share this presentation with us. We are going to put this presentation and recording of today's meeting on our website, AITP. So you can go back and look at the presentation, and then please do connect with Sandra. She has provided like really good tips today.